The first time I held the complete records of what would later be called the Terran Retribution. I knew my life's purpose had found me. My name is Vox Thule, former Chief Recorder of the Galactic Council, now Chairperson of the True History Commission. What follows is not propaganda, not sanitized history, but the unflinching account of how humanity, a species dismissed as primitive and inconsequential, brought the 20,000-year reign of the most powerful political entity in known space to its knees in less than one standard day. It began, as these things often do, with a child's curiosity. Aura Cooper was 16, Earth years old when she died. A brilliant young woman with an insatiable appetite for knowledge, particularly regarding ancient technologies. I never met her, but I've watched the security footage of her final moments so many times that I feel as though I knew her. Dark hair pulled back in what humans call a ponytail. Eyes alight with intelligence as she worked in the laboratory on Terra Nova Station, orbiting Proxima Centauri. She was humming, always humming. Her colleagues would later recall some Earth melody as her fingers danced across the holographic interface. The Galactic Council had grudgingly admitted humanity to its ranks merely 30 solar cycles prior. By Council standards, they were infants, primitives who had stumbled upon faster-than-light travel through blind luck rather than the careful, methodical advancement that had marked the progress of the Council's founding species. Humans were tolerated, not respected, regulated, not embraced. Their admission was a political calculation, nothing more. Better to keep the unpredictable species under observation than allow them to develop independently. I remember the debates within the council chambers when their application was considered. Commander Vex of the Militant Order, speaking in his characteristic low rumble. They're dangerous, impulsive. Their history is written in blood. Security Chief Draknar, mandibles clicking in agitation. Their psychological profiles indicate a concerning tendency toward emotional decision-making rather than logical analysis. And High Counselor Zivak, with his typical aristocratic dismissal. They are children playing with technology they barely comprehend. Admit them, restrict them, study them. They may prove useful in time. Such was the environment into which young Aura Cooper was born. Her parents, Marcus and Juliana Cooper, were respected xenoarchaeologists who had earned rare permission to establish a research outpost at Proxima Centauri, humanity's first extrasolar colony. The Terra Nova Station was ostensibly a joint scientific venture, but in reality, it was heavily monitored by Council observers. Every discovery was filtered, every communication scrutinized. The Council's social and cultural structure had remained largely unchanged for millennia. A rigid hierarchy based on technological advancement at the time of admission, with the 6 founding species at the pinnacle, followed by 3 tiers of member races. Humans were relegated to the lowest tier, alongside other common species considered too undeveloped for meaningful contribution. This hierarchy permeated every aspect of galactic society, from resource allocation to political representation to access to technological knowledge. In retrospect, perhaps it was inevitable that a curious human adolescent would be the catalyst for the Council's downfall. On what would be her final day, Aura was analyzing signal patterns from an abandoned transit node near the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. These nodes were believed to be remnants of an ancient network, predating even the Council itself, artifacts of a civilization lost to time. Most were dormant, their power sources long depleted, but they remained objects of intense academic interest. According to the logs recovered later, Aura noticed something in the signal degradation patterns, a mathematical consistency that shouldn't have been present in random decay. She applied a modified Fourier transformation algorithm of her own design, and the seemingly random noise resolved into a clear pattern. "It's not decay," she recorded in her personal log that evening. "It's encryption. These aren't dead nodes. They're dormant, waiting for the right key." Rather than reporting her findings through official channels, Aura made what would prove to be a fatal mistake. She encoded her findings in a personal message to me. I had met her parents several years earlier during an archaeological conference on Luna. As chief recorder, I was responsible for cataloging and preserving the Council's scientific and historical records. Marcus Cooper had impressed me with his methodical approach to xenoarchaeology. So, unlike the hasty excavations conducted by many human researchers eager to make their mark, we had maintained a professional correspondence. And when young Aura expressed interest in ancient technologies, Marcus suggested she occasionally share her findings with me. I received her message during a council recess. The data was fascinating, potentially groundbreaking, suggesting the ancient gate network might be reactivated with the proper protocols. I forwarded it to my research team for verification, not realizing that all communications from Terra Station were being monitored by Security Chief Draknar's division. Within hours, Draknar had submitted an emergency report to the Inner Council. Potential technology leak. Human researcher attempting to access restricted gate network data. Recommend immediate containment. The truth, which I would learn only much later, was that the Council had long known about the dormant nature of the gate network. The founding species had discovered this information millennia ago, but had deliberately suppressed it. Control of faster-than-light travel was one of the primary means by which the Council maintained its power. The existence of an ancient, potentially more efficient transportation network, one that might be accessible to all species regardless of technological development, threatened that control. High Counselor Zivak convened a closed session, excluding the human representatives. The transcript of this meeting remains one of the most damning documents in the historical record. The human child has stumbled upon information that could destabilize the established order, Zivak stated. We cannot allow this knowledge to spread. Her parents are respected researchers, Commander Vex noted. A direct intervention would raise questions. Then it must not appear to be an intervention, Draknar replied. Laboratory accidents are unfortunate, but not uncommon, particularly when dealing with unstable, ancient technologies. And with that clinical discussion, Aura Cooper's fate was sealed. High Counselor Zivak authorized what the record euphemistically termed a controlled containment event. In plain language, the murder of a 16-year-old girl. The security footage from Terra Station shows Aura working late in the laboratory. The timestamp indicates it was well past the station's designated rest period. She's alone, analyzing data from her earlier discovery, when the laboratory door slides open. Security Chief Draknar enters, accompanied by 2 enforcement officers. There is no sound in the recording, but it's clear from Aura's expression that she's surprised, but not alarmed. Draknar was a common presence on the station, and his appearance would not have seemed unusual. They exchange words. Aura gestures to her workstation, apparently explaining her findings. For a moment, it seems like a normal interaction. Then Draknar signals to his officers. What happens next still haunts me. The officers move with practiced efficiency. One secures the door, while the other approaches Aura from behind. She doesn't notice, still enthusiastically explaining something to Draknar. The officer removes a neural disruptor from his utility belt, a weapon designed to temporarily incapacitate, but which, at close range and with specific settings, can be lethal to the more fragile human nervous system. Aura turns, perhaps sensing movement. Her expression shifts from enthusiasm to confusion, then to fear as she sees the weapon. She backs away, hands raised in a universal gesture of surrender or placation. The officer fires. The neural pulse strikes Aura directly in the chest. Her body convulses, mouth open in what must have been a scream. She collapses to the floor, limbs twitching uncontrollably as the disruptor overloads her nervous system. Draknar approaches, checks her vital signs, and nods to the officers. They begin arranging the scene, overturning equipment, creating the appearance of an accident involving unstable, ancient technology. Before they leave, Draknar looks directly at the security camera and with deliberate precision disables it. Or so he thought. What Draknar didn't know, what none of the Council leadership knew, was that every piece of Council technology, from the grandest warship to the smallest personal communicator, contained a quantum entanglement device installed by human technicians during routine maintenance or manufacturing. These microscopic devices had been systematically embedded throughout Council infrastructure for years, creating an invisible network that humanity could access at will. The security footage from Terra Nova Station, including Ara's murder, was transmitted instantaneously to Earth through this quantum network, bypassing all Council communication protocols and security measures. Within hours, the footage was being viewed on every human settlement across the solar system and beyond. I was in my quarters at the Council headquarters when the news broke. My communication console activated automatically, an emergency broadcast from Earth. I watched in horror as the security footage played, followed by a grim-faced Ambassador Maya Ortega addressing not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. Citizens of the Galactic Council, what you have witnessed is the deliberate execution of a child. Ara Cooper was 16 years old. Her crime was curiosity, the desire to understand the universe we all share. For this, she was murdered by those who claim to represent galactic civilization. Ambassador Ortega was a formidable figure, a former military commander who had transitioned to diplomacy when humanity joined the Council. Her expression betrayed no emotion, but her voice carried a weight that seemed to transcend the light years separating us. The Galactic Council has existed for 20,000 years. Throughout its history, it has presented itself as the pinnacle of enlightened governance, the guardian of peace and progress. Today, we have seen the truth behind that facade. She paused, and when she continued, her voice had hardened. In the name of Ara Cooper, and in accordance with humanity's sovereign right to protect its citizens, Earth hereby issues the following ultimatum. The individuals responsible for this act, Security Chief Draknar, Commander Vex, High Counselor Zivak, and all who participated in or authorized this murder, are to be surrendered to Earth authorities within 24 standard hours. Failure to comply will be considered an act of war against humanity. The Council's reaction was predictable. Emergency sessions were convened. Human representatives were barred from the chambers. Defensive fleets were mobilized. The prevailing sentiment among the Council leadership was one of indignation rather than contrition. They dare threaten us, Zivak's voice echoed through the chamber. One minor species, barely out of their planetary cradle, against the combined might of the Galactic Council. Commander Vex was more measured but equally dismissive. Their military capabilities are limited. Their technology is derivative. This is a bluff, nothing more. Only Draknar seemed concerned. We should not underestimate them. Their historical records show a disturbing capacity for both innovation and destruction when threatened. But his caution was disregarded. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 20 millennia. The idea that humanity, a species that had achieved faster than light travel mere centuries ago, could pose a genuine threat seemed absurd. The ultimatum was ignored. Instead, the Council prepared a massive retaliatory strike against Earth and its colonies, intended to demonstrate the consequences of defying the established order. As the 24-hour deadline approached, I found myself increasingly anxious. The quantum entanglement devices embedded in Council technology had not been discovered. Despite intensive security sweeps, whatever humanity was planning, the Council remained blind to it. I considered warning someone, perhaps Commander Vex, who at least seemed to recognize the potential danger. But my position as Chief Recorder granted me access to information, not influence. And after witnessing Ara's murder, I was no longer certain where my loyalties should lie. The deadline passed. The Council's massive fleet, comprising warships from all the major member species, moved into position for the assault on the Sol system. Commander Vex personally led the flagship, a dreadnought capable of reducing planetary surfaces to molten slag. And then, silence. Throughout the Council territories, every communication system simultaneously failed. Navigation systems went dark. Defense grids collapsed. The quantum entanglement network that humanity had patiently built over decades activated, not just to observe, but to control. In that moment of perfect vulnerability, humanity struck. Later, analyses would reveal that Earth had been preparing for this possibility since before joining the Council. Their apparent technological inferiority was, at least in part, a carefully crafted deception. Behind the facade of a relatively primitive species struggling to adapt to galactic society, they had been building, watching, waiting. Thousands of warships materialized simultaneously throughout Council space, emerging from what appeared to be artificial wormholes. Technology the Council had deemed theoretically possible, but practically unattainable. Each ship was positioned with surgical precision near critical Council infrastructure or military assets. The human fleet that appeared at the Council headquarters was led by Admiral Petra Vulov, a legendary figure in Earth's military history. Her vessel, the ESV Retribution, dwarfed even Commander Vex's dreadnought. What followed was not a battle but an execution. With Council defense systems paralyzed by the quantum network, the human vessels opened fire with weapons of devastating power and precision. Command centers, military installations, government facilities, all were targeted with a cold efficiency that suggested the attacks had been planned long before Era Cooper's murder. Commander Vex's flagship was among the first to fall, its supposedly impenetrable shields rendered useless by the quantum shutdown. Security Chief Draknar died when the Council's primary security complex was vaporized by a weapon that seemed to bypass matter itself, leaving nothing but a perfectly spherical void in space. High Counselor Zivak, attempting to escape in a private vessel, was intercepted by a small human craft. The communication logs indicate a brief exchange before Zivak's ship was destroyed. "This is High Counselor Zivak of the Galactic Council. I invoke diplomatic immunity under Article 7 of the Founding Charter." The human response was terse. "This is Lieutenant Commander Thomas Reeves, Earth Space Force. Era Cooper was 16 years old. The destruction of the Council's central authority took less than 1 standard hour. When it was complete, Admiral Vulov broadcast a message to all Council territories. The individuals responsible for the murder of Era Cooper have been eliminated. The power structure that enabled and sanctioned this act has been dismantled. Earth does not seek conquest or domination. We seek justice and reform." She paused, her expression softening slightly. "To the citizens of the former Galactic Council, we invite your representatives to Luna for discussions regarding the formation of a new galactic body, one based on equality rather than hierarchy, on cooperation rather than control. The age of the Council is over. The age of the Confederation begins." The surrender ceremony on Luna was a solemn affair. Representatives from former Council worlds, many still in shock from the sudden and complete collapse of the power structure that had defined galactic society for millennia, gathered in the Great Hall of Harmony. The irony of the location was not lost on anyone. The hall had been a gift from the Council upon humanity's admission, intended as a symbolic gesture of welcome, while actual power remained firmly in Council hands. Ambassador Ortega, now elevated to interim coordinator of the transition government, presided over the proceedings. The document presented for signature was simple and direct: unconditional surrender of all Council military forces, dissolution of the hierarchical governance structure, and commitment to the formation of a new galactic confederation of independent systems. As the former Council representatives signed, one by one, I observed their expressions. Some showed resignation, others fear, a few even relief. The Council's rule had not been universally beloved, particularly among the lower-tier species who had suffered under its rigid hierarchy. Following the formal surrender, Ambassador Ortega made a revelation that sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. For too long, the Council has controlled access to knowledge, particularly regarding the ancient gate network that spans our galaxy. Today, we end that secrecy. A holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with thousands of points of light representing the gate network, far more extensive than even the Council records had indicated. Humanity's ancestors were not merely users of this network, Ortega continued. They were its engineers. The stunned silence that followed was broken only by scattered whispers. Professor Amara Okafor, Earth's leading xenoarchaeologist, stepped forward to explain. Approximately 2.3 million years ago, before modern humans evolved on Earth, an advanced human ancestral species created the gate network. For reasons we are still discovering, they abandoned this technology and retreated to Earth, allowing their civilization to collapse and their knowledge to be forgotten. She gestured to the holographic display. The mathematical patterns that Era Cooper discovered were recognition protocols designed to respond to human neural patterns. The network was designed to reactivate when humanity reached a certain level of technological development. This network belongs to no single species, Ambassador Ortega added. Under the Confederation, access will be open to all member worlds, eliminating the need for conventional faster-than-light travel and the resource disparities it creates. The implications were enormous. The gate network would revolutionize interstellar travel, making it accessible even to species that had previously been dependent on Council technology. The balance of power that had defined galactic politics for 20 millennia would be fundamentally altered. In the days that followed, as the framework for the Confederation took shape, I found myself increasingly withdrawn from the proceedings. The revelations about humanity's ancient past, combined with the shock of the Council's collapse and my own complicity in the system that had murdered Era Cooper, left me adrift. It was Ambassador Ortega who approached me directly. "Vox Thule," she said, finding me alone in one of Luna's observation domes, staring at the blue-white curve of Earth rising above the lunar horizon. "Your records of the Council's history are unparalleled. Your understanding of what was lost and what was wrong is valuable." "I failed," I replied. "I was chief recorder, responsible for preserving truth. Yet I served a system built on deception." "Then help us build something better," she said. "The Confederation needs a true history commission, an independent body to document what happened, without propaganda or sanitization. We need to understand our past to avoid repeating it." And so I found my new purpose. The Commission's work has been challenging, but necessary. We have documented the Council's crimes and humanity's retribution with equal honesty. We have recorded the testimonies of those who suffered under the Council's hierarchy and those who benefited from it. We have preserved the security footage of Era Cooper's final moments, not as an instrument of hatred, but as a reminder of the cost of arrogance and the value of a single life. 1 year after the formation of the Confederation, a memorial was unveiled at the site of Terranova Station. A simple holographic projection of Era Cooper, forever 16, engaged in her research. The inscription reads, "Her curiosity opened gates long closed. Her death opened eyes long blind." On the anniversary of the Retribution, a tradition has emerged across the Confederation worlds. 1 hour of silence, observed by all species, to remember not just Ara, but all those who suffered under systems of oppression. Marcus and Juliana Cooper established a foundation in their daughter's name, dedicated to ensuring unrestricted access to scientific knowledge across the Confederation. They have never spoken publicly about their loss, but their work speaks volumes about their resilience and determination that something meaningful should emerge from tragedy. As for humanity's relationship with the other species of the Confederation, it has been complex. There was initially fear, of course, fear of retribution, fear of a new hierarchy with humans at the pinnacle. But Ambassador Ortega and the Earth leadership have been careful to establish systems that prevent any single species from dominating the others. "We did not end the Council's rule to establish our own," Ortega declared at the first full Confederation Assembly. "We fought for a galaxy where Ara Cooper and all children like her, of every species, can pursue knowledge without fear, where curiosity is celebrated rather than controlled, where power serves all rather than subjugating many for the benefit of few." The integration of the Gate network has progressed steadily, with formerly lower-tier species often taking the lead in its implementation. The economic and social transformations have been profound, as artificial scarcity gives way to genuine abundance. Former Council worlds have had to adjust to a new reality, where technological advantage no longer translates directly to political power. There have been challenges, of course. Remnants of the Council's military forces attempted an insurgency in the Orion Arm, quickly suppressed by Confederation peacekeepers. Cultural integration has been uneven, with some former Council citizens struggling to adapt to a more egalitarian society. And humanity itself has had to confront the implications of its ancient heritage and the moral questions raised by its devastating retribution. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Reeves, who executed High Counselor Zivak, spoke candidly in his testimony to the Commission. "I believed absolutely in the justice of our cause. I still do, but I take no pleasure in killing, even those who deserved it. Sometimes I hear Zivak's voice in my dreams, invoking diplomatic immunity, while a child lay dead by his order." Admiral Vulov, architect of the military strategy that brought down the Council, was more pragmatic. "We studied Council history. We knew they respected only strength. We gave them exactly what their own principles dictated: overwhelming force against those who threatened us. The difference is that we stopped when justice was served. We didn't build an empire on the ashes of our enemies." Ambassador Ortega, perhaps, expressed the most nuanced view. "We did what was necessary to protect our people and to end a system that had become irredeemably corrupt. But necessity does not absolve us of responsibility for our actions. We must remember that power, even wielded in the name of justice, carries the potential for corruption. The moment we forget, that is the moment we begin to become what we destroyed." As for me, I have found a measure of peace in my work with the Commission. The truth is complex, often uncomfortable, but essential. The Council's fall was both a tragedy and a liberation. Humanity's retribution was both justice and vengeance. Ara Cooper was both a victim and a catalyst. History is not a simple narrative of heroes and villains. It is a tapestry of choices and consequences, of systems and individuals, of great forces and small moments. The Gate network that Ara discovered has connected the galaxy physically, but it is understanding, the kind that comes from honest reckoning with the past, that will connect us spiritually. In my quieter moments, I sometimes imagine what might have happened if the Council had responded differently to Ara's discovery. If curiosity had been met with encouragement rather than fear, if knowledge had been shared rather than controlled, if a child's insight had been valued rather than suppressed, perhaps the Council might still exist, transformed rather than destroyed. Perhaps thousands who died in the retribution might still live. But such counterfactuals are the luxury of historians, not the reality of those who must make decisions in moments of crisis. What remains is this: a young girl died because those in power feared what she might discover. A civilization fell because it believed its authority was absolute. A new order arose from the ashes, carrying both the hope of something better and the burden of having been born in blood. And I, Vox Thule, once Chief Recorder of the Galactic Council, now Chairperson of the True History Commission, will ensure that the full story is preserved, not as propaganda for either the old order or the new, but as a testament to the complexity of sentient existence and the enduring consequences of our choices. For Era Cooper, for the billions who lived under Council rule, for the generations who will inherit the Confederation, the truth, in all its painful complexity, is the least we can offer and the most we can give. In the vastness of the galaxy, with its billions of stars and countless civilizations, it might seem that individual lives matter little. The Council operated on this principle for 20 millennia, sacrificing individuals for what it deemed the greater good, treating people as resources rather than as ends in themselves. Humanity, for all its flaws, understood something the Council had forgotten, that the measure of a civilization is not its technological achievements or its longevity, but how it treats the most vulnerable among its members. Ara Cooper was vulnerable, a child far from home, pursuing knowledge with the innocent enthusiasm of youth. Her murder revealed the moral bankruptcy at the heart of the Council's power. Humanity's response, terrible and swift, demonstrated that some principles transcend pragmatism or politics. The message, written in the destruction of the Council and the creation of the Confederation, was clear. Do not harm our children. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. Do not believe that power grants immunity from consequence. It is a lesson the galaxy will not soon forget. As the Confederation continues to evolve, as the Gate Network connects worlds that once existed in isolation, as former enemies learn to cooperate as equals, we carry with us the memory of a 16-year-old girl whose curiosity changed the course of galactic history. In the end, perhaps that is Ara Cooper's true legacy. Not just the technological revolution her discovery enabled, or the political transformation her death precipitated, but the fundamental ethical principle her story embodies: that the value of a single life outweighs the preservation of an unjust system, that the pursuit of knowledge should never be punished, and that those who wield power are accountable for how they use it. The stars shine no brighter for her absence, but we who remain look at them differently because of her. And in that difference lies the hope for a better future, one worthy of her curiosity, her courage, and her unfulfilled promise. This is Vox Thule, bearing witness, for the truth, for justice, for Ara,